Hello, YouTube. Give me a second to figure out and get set up here. How's everyone doing? We're live today, and we have a really fun topic that we're doing. Okay, so let's see. All right, let's figure out lighting. Let me know. Hi, yay, Swati, welcome. Amrose. Yes, awesome. Good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you guys are. We have a really fun topic today. We're talking about how to stay girly and feminine in relationships. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome. As we're waiting for people to hop on, I did put a notification on Facebook that I was coming on and Instagram. I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements as these are time sensitive. So the first announcement, we're doing housekeeping first, is that this is for 24 hours only. As you guys have heard, I'm doing a 2.0 version of my Conscious Couples Intelligent Love Intensive. It starts in September, but I have an early bird pre-launch pricing. And for the next 24 hours, as a bonus, not only on top of the pre-launch pricing, I'm giving you guys the 90-day relationship rehab as a bonus when you sign up for the Conscious Couples 2.0. And what this will do for you is that while you're waiting for the intensive to start in September, you can start doing the 90-day relationship rehab, and they go and work really well together. The Conscious Couples 2.0 is a 3-month intensive. Every week you get a lesson, you get a homework assignment, you get fun things to work with. You don't have to be in a relationship to benefit from it. It really restructures everything that you thought you knew about relationships and gives you the tools that you need to have successful relationships, not only in a romantic way, but I think it really impacts all your relationships. We've had ladies that took this program go from being in a dead-end relationship to having their men propose, being in a long-term marriage to having their man suddenly ravish them, romance them after 10, 15, 20 years of marriage. So it's really a game changer when it comes to relationships. At this price with the bonus, you really can't afford not to enroll. There is a payment plan. If you scroll down to the on the sales page, it is listed in the description box as well as the comments below. So go and check it out if this is something that's calling to you. It is a pre-launch offer, like I said, and the bonus with the 90-day expires at midnight tonight. So you want to grab this if this is calling out to you. The second announcement I want to make is that I will be in Dallas November 8th to 10th, and I have 2 spots for private one-on-one intensives and 4 spots for a group mini intensive. So I contact me privately. It's women only, and either on theuniverseguru@gmail.com or on Facebook, and I can send you the information for that. So if you're local in Dallas, it'll be fun to be able to spend that time with you working on. You can choose any of the areas that I work on as with my programs and intensives, and we can customize the intensive for you. So that's exciting. I'll see some of you guys in Dallas and some of you guys in the Conscious Couples. So let's get started now. Welcome in, people. We did have a question that was sent in on Instagram, which I will answer. And this is question based, so I will share with you some of my tips, but let me know what when it comes to relationships and being girly and feminine, where do you get stuck? Where is your, where are you needing improvement? And I will take those in a minute. All right, so just checking in. Hi Darla, hi everyone, Lauren, Chelsea, welcome in, ladies. So what are my tips for staying girly and feminine in relationships? So my number 1 tip is, or question is for you, why did you get in the relationship? So what is the purpose of the relationship? What is the function of your relationship in your life? And I'm asking this because questions like these I've asked many women, and most women have given it no thought to why they want a relationship, why they got into a relationship. And it's like everyone else is doing it, they're supposed to do it, and they get into this relationship. But if you're goals in your relationship or what you're wanting your relationship to look like is not clearly defined, how do you know if the relationship is successful or not? Right? How do you know? Are you showing up in the relationship as the 5-year-old subconscious version of you and going into like this me, my need, my very fear-based consciousness in my relationship, and then judging the relationship based on that, right? So what's your goal in the relationship? And then the second part of that question is, what is your partner's goal? What's your partner's expectations? From your partner's eyes, how does the relationship look? And this I think is such a game changer. I know that I started looking at this question in my own marriage at about 5 years ago, and I realized that I was completely clueless as to what the function of the relationship was for my partner. In fact, when I was coming up with questions, I was coming up or answers, I was coming up with the very like super negative answers. And that is not why he had gotten into the relationship. And I think that these things need to be clearly defined for ourselves, and we need to know what our partner expects in the relationship and also what's their view of the relationship. Are they thinking that the relationship is great while you're suffering in the relationship? Or perhaps you think the relationship is great and your partner views it as not so much. And these are important places to kind of sync up, right? So one of the tips that I always give to women in any kind of relationship is, I totally lost my train of thought. What was I gonna say? Give me a second. What was I talking about? I totally lost my train of thought. Okay, we'll skip over that and I'll come back to that. So I guess what I want to add to that is that, are you living your relationship or relationships, even ones that are outside of the romantic field, from your human self, which is always going to be based on fear consciousness, right? I've said this before, that the human brain is not necessarily designed for love. It's designed to look for safety. It's designed to look for approval. It's designed to look for security, because that's what it thinks will keep you alive the longest. So we have to have our higher self, our higher consciousness, our higher divine self involved in the relationship. So there's, at any given time, there's 4 of you in the romantic relationship. There's your lower self, your higher self. There's your partner's lower self and partner's higher self. And when we have arguments or disagreements in relationships, most of the time it's because your lower self is triggering their lower self. And another way of saying this is that your nervous system is triggering your partner's nervous system, and it's like two brains having this argument, this trigger, and not this higher conscious couple having a discussion on how to improve things or how to overcome problems. And so you have to be really aware of that which part of you is more dominant in the relationship. Is it your fear-based consciousness, the part of you that wants control, wants approval, wants security at all times, and that's what you're trying to seek? That part of you doesn't know how to love anyone. That part of you thinks love is your needs getting met in the relationship in the way that you need them, right? In your version of them, and your partner is not even factored into that equation. So that's what I teach in the conscious couples, is how to be more conscious and aware of your subconscious patterns, which, remember, I've talked about in my guide, stages of goddess evolution, right? So most of our subconscious functioning, 95% of our functioning is subconscious. And by the time when we're 0 to 7 years old, that's when most of that is set. So is the 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old version of you showing up in the relationship? And is that the version that's running your life? Hi, happy Wednesday to you as well. So one of the questions that came in that I'll take in a second on Instagram is kind of an interesting one. It goes along the same lines. But a second tip that I want to give you when it comes to staying girly and feminine is, so the first one was define why are you in the relationship, right? Is it just to get your basic functional needs met? Is it so you can control how your partner behaves at all times? Is it so you can have fun, so you can have expansion and growth in your relationship? What does that mean for you? Secondly, is that you have to make self-care a huge part of your relationship, not only with your partner but with yourself. And I'm hesitant to use the phrase or term self-care because people really confuse this. But what self-care really means is that, are you okay with being with yourself? Do you enjoy your own company? Do you take a lot of time in working through your triggers, in being self-aware, in pattern interrupting, in expanding your brain, and expanding your consciousness? That's self-care. Getting your nails done is a grooming. That's not self-care. And so you've often heard me say in my programs that it's not really self-care unless your divine self is in on it, because it needs to be intentional. It needs to be something that uplifts your entire consciousness and way of being, right? If you're going to get your nails done with your girlfriend and you're complaining and arguing or talking about how bad your life is or your relationship is, that's not self-care. That's you just using your grooming time to be stuck in the same paradigm that you've always lived in, right? That's not self-care. And when you participate in actual self-care, when you're okay with being by yourself, you spend time in meditation or prayer, journaling, pattern interrupting, experiencing new things, that naturally puts you in your feminine energy. That naturally gives you this lightness in your energy. That naturally makes you light and airy and magnetic to be around, right? So are you doing that in your life? Do you even understand what self-care is? I see a lot of women doing grooming and then calling it self-care, and those things are not the same. Okay, so the question that came in on Instagram was, how do we manage anger if we're having an argument? So the way I look at this is that you don't manage your anger when you're having an argument. You manage your anger before it gets to anger. So I want you to look at it almost as like this continuum, right? It's like an emotional scale, let's say. And here on this side is mild annoyance, and here is like full-blown rage. And anger is probably somewhere here. How did you go from being mildly annoyed, irritated, moody, upset, sad, all the way to anger, with it letting with like your conscious divine self not stepping in? Like, how did it get that far where you're full-blown anger? So the way we don't go from like, yay, I'm having a blissful fun day, to, oh my god, I'm so angry, I'm gonna go have an argument. It doesn't work that way. And typically, if you're the kind of person that gets triggered really quickly from like 0 to 60 when it comes to anger, there's a lot of unresolved, pent up issues and anger, and like anger energy inside your body already that needs to be released. And that's usually the people that go from like 0 to 60 really quickly. It's because there's already underlying issues inside of them, right? If you are a person that is doing your inner work, you're releasing, you're forgiving, you're showing up emotionally current every single day, then it's very hard to make you angry. Because when you're mildly irritated, you will catch yourself. You're going to say, I feel a little off right now. What's going on with me? Right? So this is the reason that you can't get me angry, because I'm emotionally current. I've done a lot of inner work. I'm very self-aware. I catch myself at the mildly irritated spot, and I'm able to sit with myself and say, what's going on? Why are you getting irritated with this person? Or why are you getting irritated with this situation? So to answer your question, if you are getting angry, or anger is showing up for you in an argument, there's something else that's already present in you that has nothing to do with your partner. Absolutely nothing to do with your partner. probably some unresolved stuff from either your childhood, from your previous relationships. Maybe you're too overworked. There's things inside of you that haven't been released and worked through. That's why it's manifesting that way. And you can change your partner 50 times and the same thing will keep coming up. So it's not about the partner, it's about you holding that inside. So I hope that that answers your question. You don't try to manage that in the midst of an argument. You work through that by yourself, and release that with the help of either a therapist, counselor, coach, programs, like whatever you need to do. That's how you figure it out. But never in the midst of a an actual discussion. Any other questions coming up for you guys as far as relationships and staying fun and playful and girly and feminine? Now's your time to ask. And for those of you guys that want the full version, this is the time to grab the Conscious Couples 2.0. It's 3 months of intensive, and then after that, I give 6 months of after support. So, after the 3 months are over, if you have a question or something come up in your relationship, you can post it in the Facebook group. And this time around, I'm actually also adding, I think it's 3 or 4 bonus modules in there, lessons in there, not modules, lessons in there. So this is the time. Any question coming up for you guys as I wrap this up otherwise? And I'll go ahead and throw in the link in the chat box right now, but it's also in the description. And if anyone's in Dallas, let me know if you are planning on coming to see me. Okay, let me throw that in there. I'll hang out. I know there's like a delay, so the question is, what if your man is girlier or more feminine than you? That's a great one, and I get asked this all the time. So, this is the kind of stuff to figure out in the dating phases, right? But if you're already in a relationship, for example, when you're dating, like meaning you're dating multiple people, you're not exclusive yet, and so you're both dating multiple people at that time. And this was a huge one for me, by the way, that this was something on my love list that was written down, that my man has to be uber masculine, because I had in my previous relationship been with someone that was uber feminine, and I ended up being the man in the relationship and the breadwinner. So I knew I didn't want to do that again. And so that was something that I was looking out for. So you want to make sure that you're looking out for that. Now, let's say that you're already in a relationship and you're experiencing this. Oftentimes what happens is men are better at trying to balance out the relationship, right? They like harmony. They want things to be like easy and good in the relationship. So if you are someone that's showing up in the relationship super masculine, what men will often do is they will deactivate their masculine a little bit to make space for your masculine. And they're actually doing it from a good place because they're trying to restore the polarity. But what happens then is when you see your man becoming even more feminine or kind of not being as masculine, you become even more masculine. So it creates this like weird cycle and vicious cycle where you're stuck, right? Because that usually upsets women even more. I know this happened in my relationship, right? Like even though my husband is a super masculine guy, because I was showing up masculine all the time in my relationship before we fixed all these, learned this and fixed it, he would be like, okay, fine, you take the lead then, right? Like there isn't space for two men in one relationship. Look at it this way, even in gay relationships and lesbian relationships, there's always going to be one partner that's masculine and one that's feminine to create polarity. So this is needed in relationships. But men don't like conflict, right? So he will become more feminine the more masculine you are to try to create that polarity, which is going to piss you off and you're going to be even more masculine. The trick here, and this is a very delicate balance, and I teach this in the Conscious Couples, but I'm going to share it here. You have to out-feminine him. So femininity, it's relative, right? So I've given this example before where if I'm in the presence of the average modern day female today, I'm probably going to be the most feminine one in the room because I teach this stuff, I know it, I practice it, right? But if someone from the 1950s came and sat next to me, let's say Marilyn Monroe, I don't remember what genre she was from, but let's say Marilyn Monroe, Grace Kelly, right? Any of these women came and sat next to me, I'm not going to be the most feminine one in the room anymore because these women knew femininity in a different era where femininity was in, it was the norm. Does that make sense? So now when you apply this to your relationship, right? So if your man's being girly or feminine, you have to become more feminine. This means saying, I don't know, baby, where should we go out to eat? And he's like, I don't know, where should we go out to eat? I don't know, baby. Whatever you choose is going to be fine. I don't know. Like, be a little bit more feminine. This doesn't mean that you can't be masculine also in your relationship. You need both. But you have to retrain your nervous system and his that it's okay. Now, what a lot of women do is they say, my man is so feminine. He's, I have to be the masculine one. But yet when he chooses a restaurant or plans no, that's awful. Or no, I can't eat there. Well, you're undermining him, you're emasculating him, you're not choosing his decision. He's going to be like, fine, you decide. So you have to be able to hold that pose and out feminine him and let him know that you're willing to follow his leadership. And so then slowly you will become the more feminine one. It's a retraining in the relationship, especially if you've been functioning a certain way for a while. So I hope that answers that. Okay, next one is, how do you initiate lovemaking, schedule or not? That's a good one. We played around with the whole scheduling thing years ago, and it's not fun. It's not sexy. It's not playful. So I would say the only time I advise scheduling is when there's babies involved, there's hard schedules, like where it's like totally fallen off, and the only way you can do it is if you scheduled it, then use that tool. But overall, it's not very sexy, right? I mean, sometimes you need to do it. God knows we did it, especially after having babies. It was hard with lack of sleep and stuff to get it in. So like sometimes we had to schedule it. But you have to become the invitation. If you're with a masculine partner and you want to be the feminine role in the partnership, be the invitation and don't lead and initiate, I would say more than 10% of the time. So that would be my advice for that. And again, I teach that in the Conscious Couples in detail. How to control our voice, not to talk too fast or too loud. That's a good one. You guys know I have a whole program on feminine voice mastery. In fact, many of you guys might not know this, so let me put the link in below. And this took me a long time. You guys know I used to suffer from anxiety, and even as I was getting better, it was really evident in my voice. So there's the link for the feminine voice mastery. Okay. So you have to understand that a lot of that is coming from anxious energy that is inside of you. A lot of that is coming from this need of approval. A lot of most of it is just anxiety that's in your body. It's an energetic way of your being that you have trained yourself. And there's many ways to release energy. Communication, words, talking is one of them. So if you're not using other ways to manage your fight and flight, manage the release of energy, it comes out in you talking really fast and being really overwhelmed. I cringe when I look at or listen to my old videos ever, because you can see the real difference. It's so cringeworthy, but I'm so glad that I was able to do this work and really learn it, and I teach it now. So you have to be able to learn how to manage and release pent-up energy so it's not coming out in your communication. Next one. Hi, after my baby is born 8 months old, my relationship with my husband is getting very difficult. We fight so much over the household chores. I am not being feminine anymore. No self-care. Okay, so ask me one direct question and hopefully I can answer that for you. Thank you, that helped. I think my fault is my tone. I've been told my tone and I can't say that word. You get it. Is a bit intense. Maybe my masculine energy is a bit much. So tone is important for all human beings, but especially for the masculine nervous system. Their nervous system can get really easily triggered by the slightest difference in tone. And this is why having a embodied feminine tone is super important, an embodied voice. In fact, I have a funny story to share. So when I had that issue too, by the way, so I can relate. When I first started doing the feminine voice work, I started using a different tone with my husband, and it was so annoying in the beginning because my oldest son, I think he was 13 at the time when I started doing this, he would keep pointing it out. He would be like, your voice is different. And then he would, in front of my husband, or that he would be like, how come you use a different voice when you talk to daddy? And I was like, God damn it, you're ruining my vibe, right? But eventually that became my norm. And so then they don't know now that I'm using different voices. I still play with that. Like I will use a certain voice with my children all the time. And then if I want them to do something and act fast, I will use a different tone, and you will see them clearly get the message that, oh shit, she's serious. Like, go do this now. So, the masculine nervous system is different than the female nervous system, and certain things can trigger them. And without them knowing it, it puts them in kind of this like protecting and preserving themselves mode. So, what you do with your voice when it's not embodied, when your tone is off, is you take the masculine's natural, evolved need to want to protect and serve, protect and provide, and you turn it against you because they're using it to protect themselves. Is that making sense? So either in a relationship, the masculine is all about providing for you and protecting you, or if you're showing up as in an attacking mode, in an attacking tone, voice, words, whatever you're doing with that, you turn their natural ability to protect and provide against you, because now they're protecting and providing for themselves from you. Subconsciously, you become the enemy. And then depending on your man, either he's going to completely withdraw from you, get really quiet, or he'll attack back and he'll say some things that kind of, hit below the belt, mean things to try to get to trigger you. Some men are passive aggressive, others may just withdraw and deal with it. But it's a loss of his natural ability to want to provide for you, protect you. So it's something that I highly advise that people work on. Pattern interrupt, do the work. My friend is having a hard time in her marriage, and she's extremely masculine and triggered easily. She gets the theory of being more feminine but doesn't act on it. Can I help her? You can only help with your own embodiment. It needs to be her decision, and she needs to seek it out. This is when you've been in a certain mode. I'll share my own example. I was in my masculine energy, in my masculine mode, since I was 5 years old. You guys know my story. That's when I was first sexually abused as a child, and I didn't even know this, but it put me in fight and flight kind of masculine mode for my entire life. And so it's safe to say that when I came to this work myself, I had been living that way for 30 some years. So you think that having girlfriend talks with a certain friend is going to change my entire personality? No, right? It took a lot of inner work for me. It took hiring professionals, programs, reading books, pattern interrupting, being uncomfortable, meditation, subconscious work, hypnosis. It took a lot of work, but no one can convince me to do this. I had to do it because I wanted to do it. Because it does take a complete rewiring, no one can do it for you. No one can convince you. That's why I don't even try. I don't try to help friends unless someone comes and says, hey, I want to hire you, or please tell me more. What are your programs about? Then I'll sense it and help them, right? Because even when friends ask for advice, they don't want to hear it. I've noticed it. I will give them advice and they're immediately protecting themselves, or they get irritated. So I no longer give free advice. I don't try to help people. Even my YouTube videos where I'm doing this, you guys came to me. I don't go and help because you can't. It requires too much effort in the beginning to change 30, 40 years of functioning. You can, the only way someone can honestly acquire this way of being is because they really want it badly. Not because they want it. They want it badly and they're willing to do anything. That's what it took for me, that I wanted it so badly that I was like, it's do or die. Like, I'm doing this. Okay. Thank you. I was watching your older videos of Dave Ramsey interview, and so I was wondering, how would you have done it? It took me about 18 months of practice, and yeah, yep, it took a lot of time and effort, because again, that was 30 some years of doing it one way. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but I did it. I was like this, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I really wanted to change. Someone said, what advice do you have for single women? When we go on a date, how are we supposed to use feminine tone and be feminine on a date without looking needy or lame? So you look needy or lame when you're not being yourself. So there is a limiting belief that you have that if you were using your feminine tone and being feminine, that you would look needy and lame. That's a limiting belief. In fact, it's the other way around. When you're using your masculine tone, when you're being in your masculine on a date, that's when you look needy and lame, because you're showing up as someone that's closed-hearted, trying to protect themselves. You're showing up as a dude on a date. How fun is that, right? That looks kind of needy. It looks like you've been someone that has had to fight for themselves, fend for themselves, probably someone who doesn't know what it's like to be loved, has never been loved by a man because you've never showed up as a woman. That makes you look quite needy. So get rid of that limiting belief. It's the other way around. Okay, let me. Okay. Thank you, Linda. Thanks for sending me love from Kenya. How does one stay feminine and girly in all male workspace and be taken seriously? So my question is, why are you wanting to be feminine and girly in an all male workplace? Are you looking for a date at work? Because at work is the time to be in your masculine, and there's different degrees, right? You don't want to be in your feminine and girly as if you were on a date or with your partner in a marriage or with your children when you're playing around or a girls' night out in a workplace, because that's inappropriate. So you have to use, there has to be this sense of you being okay with being you, the version of you that's required in that moment. So if I was a lawyer or a doctor and I'm at work, I'm not going to be like giggling and like fun and light and playful because I'm at work, right? So I'm even on my one-on-one calls with my clients, even on this live stream that I'm doing here for fun, right? I'm going to use a different degree of femininity than I would when I'm with my partner or with my family in the evening. So it's not about this one size fits all. You have to show up in the moment. That's like if the question was reversed and you said, so how can I wear a swimsuit to work and be taken seriously? I would be like, why would you want to wear a swimsuit to work? Is your work being a lifeguard, or are you in the office? You have to choose what's appropriate for that moment. Work is a time to be in your masculine, right? So use that. That's the appropriate thing to do. Someone said, what would you say for the women that are not feminine? Some couples seem to have the roles reversed, and that works for them. I would say as long as there's polarity in the relationship, it doesn't matter who's showing up as the feminine and who's showing up as the masculine. Especially in modern day society, I talk about this in the Conscious Couples, that this is the first time in history that we are so gender fluid. It's a new way of being for most of us. Men are getting more in touch with their feminine, and good for them, because there needs to be that 80-20, 90-10 balance for them. And women are obviously way more in touch with our masculine. It just, we need to balance that out. And balance doesn't mean 50-50. It, for women, 90% of women are dominantly feminine energy beings, but they have been put in their masculine through society, through wounds, through triggers, through things that happen to them. So you have to decide. There are women out there that are genuinely happy in the relationship wearing the masculine role all the time, most of the time, and they end up attracting partners that are completely fine with being the feminine partner in the relationship. It's the same as if you were a gay couple. If you were two men, one would be the masculine and one would be the feminine. Or if you were two women in a marriage, one would be the masculine, one would be the feminine. So there's nothing wrong with that. If you are in that relationship and that works for you, great. The problem is only because most of the time it doesn't work because it's reversed and you don't want it that way. Does that make sense? Because I worked with couples where the woman was in her masculine most of the time, and so the man had acquired the feminine role to try to create balance, but he wasn't happy in that role and she wasn't happy in her, so they were always fighting and arguing, but neither of them would let go of their role that was their habitual way of being. So it's like someone's gonna have to flip the switch, pattern interrupt, so that the other person can take the other role. And it's like you have to do a complete overhaul in the relationship. And that's what I help them work through. But if I know relationships like that work great, where the man wants to be in his feminine and the woman wants to be in their masculine, they have great relationships. That totally works. What if the work dress code is masculine? If you are a woman, even if you're wearing a masculine outfit, you're still going to be a woman. So you have to decide, does that work for you? So I've seen women that put on tux and they still, because they're at their core a feminine being, meaning it's their energy, not what they're wearing. It's the same thing as women that are uber masculine, but then they're wearing a dress and they think that will balance it out. But it's like, no, your energy is still masculine. So the dress code shouldn't matter. If you are okay with it, if your energy is feminine, you will make that masculine outfit look feminine. So how to be a soft woman? Often people say to me that I'm acting too masculine and that I'm harsh with words and attitude, even if I look like a woman and I love makeup and cute dresses. Yeah, that's dresses and makeup and all that stuff is not what makes you feminine. You're going to have to do inner work. Most people are soft on the inside, most women, meaning they're fearful on the inside, and then they show up as kind of like hard on the outside to protect themselves. A feminine being that has done her inner work can be really like secure on the inside and soft on the outside because she has good boundaries. She's done her inner work. She knows that her femininity is her power. So this is the work that I teach in the Sacred Feminine Intensive. It requires rewiring. So it's not something that I can answer in one thing. You're going to have to do a lot of inner work to get over that. You have to realize there's a part of you that is so afraid to show the true self. You're collapsing your heart center. You're afraid that people will hurt you. You're afraid of people seeing the real you. So you show up as protecting yourself all the time. So ladies, I'm going to leave the link for the conscious couples. Remember, tonight at midnight, that offer ends where you get the 90-day relationship rehab for free. This is the time to join the Conscious Couples 2.0 because you get the 3 months intensive for a pre-launch price. Plus, you end up getting the 90-day relationship, which is 12 hours of relationship dynamics for free as a bonus. So you have to go and get that now if you really want to fix this once and for all. Most of you are afraid of having to do the inner work, but there's no easy answer to any of this, right? We ask questions, but are you willing to go in? How badly do you want to fix your relationship? And those of you guys that are in Dallas, I'm coming there in November. Contact me, women only. I've got 2 spots only for the private intensive, one-on-one, and 4 spots only left for the group. I've already announced this in my email list on Facebook. So grab that now. I love you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.